Welcome to Healing Steps to Wellness. I'm Dr. J,
I'm May,
your trusted guide to wholesome health, one step
and one bite at a
at
time.
a time.
All right.
Today, we are thrilled to welcome Dr. Will Boswick, best known as Dr. B, the world-renowned GI physician, internationally recognized gut health expert, and best-selling author. Welcome,
Right.
Dr. B.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure. Dr. J and May.
Thank you.
Well, again, I have to say that one thing that I do want to point out is that Dr. B is triple board certified GI doctor and lifestyle medicine physician, and also, and then as what Dr. J already mentioned, 3-time New York Times bestseller author. And I don't know whether that includes the most recent book right here. So
It does. Yeah.
I'm the big fan. I'm the big fan of Dr. B, and I had to pinch my cheek and say, "Is that real?" I'm going to have him as a guest on our podcast. So thank you. Yeah,
I'm just going to get it out first.
we are fighting.
With me, so excited. I don't know how much time I have to talk. So I'm just letting you know, if I'm quiet, that's because I just don't have a chance to talk. Okay, here you go.
I'll let you go first. All right. Dr. J, go first.
Okay, let's start with Dr. B, your journey. What drew you to medicine, and then later on, what drew you to gut health?
Well, this was not the plan, to be honest with you. Originally, when I was a child, I thought I would become an attorney. And then I realized, no, I actually want to do something where I can serve others. So I went through a period of time where I thought I would become a veterinarian, but I didn't like cats. And which is kind of ironic because I love cats now. I think they're great. They're very smart. So I pivoted and I went towards medicine. And this is a journey that I started when I was a teenager. And it took me until I was 34 years to fulfill and complete that journey. And during that process, there was a lot of discovery of who I am and what I love and what I want to be. I thought in the beginning that I wanted to be a pediatrician, and I ended up becoming an adult gastroenterologist. And I went into that field really not because of nutrition, not because of fiber. That wasn't even on my radar, even though I really actually needed it quite terribly. But no, instead what happened was that I wanted a field that would allow me to use my mind, which is what an internist does, and also simultaneously allow me the opportunity to, in some cases, use my hands. And that's part of what a gastroenterologist does. And so this was a good choice for me. I worked very hard to enter into this profession. It's very competitive and hard to get into. And in that process, I sacrificed a lot of myself. And I became the person who had the health issues. I'm the one who needed the solutions. And I was not willing to accept that I should just take 5 different medications for 5 different problems. And ultimately, that was the beginning of this journey that led me to where I am today. And that was about 15 years ago that I started this.
Wow. So how did your training shape your understanding of chronic disease during this process? Especially you mentioned that you got into health issues yourself.
Yeah. I think that there's the education that young doctors receive through medical school, through hospital-based training that orients very specifically to disease state. And so in essence, you wait until the disease is present, you diagnose the disease, and then you create solutions to reduce the impact of the disease, suppress the symptoms of the disease. And what's missing from that equation that I discovered when I was the one who was unwell, what's missing is the opportunity to prevent disease before it begins And what's also missing is to identify the source of the problem and identify the source of the problem with the intent of undermining the disease entirely. And so as I dealt with my own health issues, I asked these questions. Well, why am I? Why am I 50 pounds overweight? Why am I anxious and depressed? Why do I have high blood pressure and high cholesterol? It doesn't just come out of nowhere. And so as I pondered those questions, I actually didn't have a clear answer despite medical school at Georgetown, chief medical resident at Northwestern, did an NIH grant at the University of North Carolina School of Public Health. Great institutions, wonderful doctors who taught me. I did not have a great answer to these quite basic questions that I think our patients have for us. And so this is what led me on this journey.
Okay.
So this is just something that, well, I have listened to a lot of your podcast and presentation. Very interesting that you you had your journey as a student, and also your own health journey, and come to today become a very popular GI doctor, and you continue to teach with very easy to understand language. And that's one part I love about it, because we have seen so many people suffer from the many issues, the autoimmune issue. And number one, on your new book, you talk about the plan, talk about the autoimmune, the inflammation. And then also, I heard about the gut is the second brain. So would you please help us understand the importance of this gut, and the magic of how this gut actually affect our entire body health system?
Yeah, May, it is wild to consider the things that we have learned in the last 10 or 15 years, because we didn't really know many of these things if you went back to when I was in medical school 20 years ago. This year is the 20-year anniversary of me being a medical doctor. And we didn't know many of these things because we frankly didn't have the technology in the laboratory. And we also didn't have enough power in our computers yet. Here we are in the dawn of AI, but 20 years ago, our computers were very basic.
Mm-hmm.
And we needed more power in order to process the amount of information that exists within the microbiome. So what we've discovered during this period of time has been revolutionary to our understanding of human health. And it brings us from a place of being excessively disease-specific, excessively systems-based, where yes, I am a gastroenterologist, of course, that's my expertise, but that doesn't mean I should ignore the connections between the gut microbiome and our digestive health, and how that has implications throughout our entire body, because we see this. And so what we have discovered is that the command center for human health is, shockingly, the gut microbiome, which is technically not even a part of our body, and also is not even human, yet has such powerful implications for our health, because it impacts, of course, our digestion. They're directly involved in the digestion of our food and access to very, very important nutrients that our body needs to function properly. But beyond digestion, these microbes are deeply intertwined with our immune system, which is the thesis of my new book, Plant Powered Plus. This is what the book is about. Inflammation, and how the opportunity to address inflammation exists in the gut, but also connected to our metabolism, connected to our hormones, connected to our mood, connected to our cognitive health. And so we can't, we create educational systems that are intended to allow us simple humans to process overwhelming information and develop expertise in very, very narrow areas of focus. But we must still retain the ability to zoom out
Mm.
and see this bigger picture, that the body is one. And the body doesn't care that you have separated a gastroenterologist from a podiatrist from a cardiologist. The body doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's all connected, and it's connected back ultimately to the gut microbiome in a way.
So my college degree was microbiology. And we knew about GI, the importance of GI at the time. But more of what the bacteria microbe inside, we didn't call it microbiome at the time. In my college research was actually on cholesterol. And so in order to get a fresh sample, my instructor always told me, go to a hog farm, wait for the fresh sample. So I'll be chatting with the farmers, and then he'll say, wait for that one, go. And then I would rush there, pick out the fresh sample, rush back to the lab, process it. And now I realize why the classmates didn't like me, because I like to do it during lunchtime. I'll go back to the lab, start the process. So we knew there's something inside there, but we just didn't know the impact of all those, now we call it microbiome. So it has been a long time, a long journey. But one thing is, how would that microbiome, just like you say, touch everything, how they in terms of our real life, in reality, how that relates to longevity and our vitality?
So if you allow me, as a non-clinician, and based on my very basic understanding about this term, we use the microbiome a lot. But would you please take us to understand further about microbiome? And you also mentioned about the gut has a lot of living thing that, can you kind of describe us? Are they a group of a different society? I mean, I want to learn more basic about that.
Sure.
That's a group of hippies.
Yeah. Well, getting back to the fundamentals of these concepts, the word microbiome technically refers to the genetic code that is represented by these microorganisms. There are so many of them. There are, within our gut alone, the estimate is around 38 trillion. Our body in whole, including our skin and other microbiomes, is thought to be somewhere on the order of 39 or 40 trillion different microbes. This is a ridiculously large number. I mean, it's hard to even quantify this. But nonetheless, they are there with a purpose, and these genes that they carry allow them to basically serve specific functions. Now, first, to describe, to Mei's question, to describe the microbiome in more detail, it is made up of these living, mostly single cellular microorganisms, struggling with that word today, such as bacteria. There are many, bacteria are the dominant ones. There are many different types, and they serve different purposes. They're not all the same.
No.
Some have different skills. Some are good at digesting fiber. Some are good at digesting protein. They carry the skill set, including the enzymes that are necessary to achieve those specific things. They have different personalities. Many of them, most of them, I like to believe, are there to help you, support you, make you live longer. Because if you do that, they get to stick around. Their offspring get to stick around. Although there are some that are disruptive, and they've chosen a different path through life, and they want to cause trouble, right? We call those pathogens, pathogenic bacteria. And there's this mix between them. It's not just bacteria. There's also yeasts. Yeasts, you could call them fungi. And they're a minority within this ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
But they are there and they do play a significant and important role. And there's a reason why a person is most prone to developing yeast infections, whether that be in their throat, which is a thrush, right, in their esophagus, esophagitis, or in women, a vaginal yeast infection. These types of infections are most common when we take antibiotics. Suppress the bacteria, the yeast grow. And so it's just really almost an experiment that shows you the way that this ecosystem functions. Many of us have what are called archaea. They're not bacteria, they're not yeasts, and we believe that they are the first life on the planet. So to the best of our ability to identify, we've discovered them in these very, very challenging places, like in the bottom of the ocean, in a rift vent, or inside of a volcano, but you also will find them inside of humans. And we call them methanogens. They produce methane gas, and they actually protect us from heart disease. So the gas producers, when people eat beans and they pass gas,
Yeah.
that gas that you're passing, you should keep in mind you have just protected yourself from heart disease, right? It comes back to the song that I sang as a kid, good for the heart. So in some
That's
cases,
interesting.
yeah, well, it's all dynamic. And these bacteria, they're like Game of Thrones characters. And what I mean by that is they're not always categorically good or bad. So it depends on the context. So sometimes they can be good, sometimes they can be bad. So you just got to be careful about vilifying anyone too much. So sometimes we have parasites, and parasites, we hear that, we cringe, we think they must be horrible. Actually, in some cases, they're very good. There's one called blastocystis that in my work with Zoe, we discovered was actually really, really good for metabolic health. And unfortunately, the vast majority of Americans don't have blastocystis because we've sterilized everything in our world. So many of these species are disappearing. So that's a general view to the constitution of the microbiome. I didn't mention the viruses because technically they're not a part of that. But actually, the estimates are we have even more viruses than we have microbes. And so they certainly play a role in shaping all of this as well. So to answer your question, Dr. J, about microbiome and longevity and how this is all connected, to me, longevity, when I think about this, it's more than a number. It is how you feel. It's your energy. It's your ability to achieve the ambitious goals that you have on a daily basis, which by ambitious, that's not necessarily work related. That could be spending time with your children or your grandchildren. And it's the ability to continue to maintain that for as long as possible. And so that to me is what longevity is. Some people may define this as the combination of both lifespan, which is years, and health span, which is taking and extending your health for as far as you can. And I think that would be fair. And the way in which the gut microbiome is connected to this is through these interconnections to digestion, which is access to high quality nutrients, to our immune system, which is reducing inflammation. Inflammation, by the way, I would argue is the driving dominant force of disease that exists in the world today. And that's why I wrote my most recent book, Plant Powered Plus, because I wanted to take on, basically I wanted to attack the dragon that I see as the biggest problem out there. But it also is our metabolism, diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol, lipid control, atherosclerosis, and cardiovascular disease. These, of course, are contributing factors to longevity. And it's our cognitive health, right? We want to protect ourselves from Alzheimer's, from Parkinson's. So, and when you take all of these things, we could go. It would take us hours to fully in detail go through this. But we could go disease by disease. We could go system by system, through all of it. And I could show you how the gut microbiome is connected. But really, if I were to simplify, a complex topic, for the vast majority of disease, the way that I would break this down is it's the combination of the gut microbiome and the immune system together that basically connects to these different disease states. And when you make the microbiome healthy, you also make the immune system healthy. And that's really, to me, the essence of longevity.
I think I got into the wrong field. No, my college research was on methane producing Clostridium, and my PhD work was virology. Turns out they're all in the GI. I think I'm in the wrong field.
You took the wrong turn.
Yeah, I took the wrong turn. but that's one very interesting about, you talk about all those microbiome, those bacteria, microorganisms co-living with us. And it got me thinking about, how about the origin of mitochondria?
That's true. That's true. The origin of the mitochondria is thought to be bacterial in origin. So absolutely.
Yeah, that's why they have their separate DNA right there, and that's why it's not equal in the offspring, right? The mother had 50.0001, and then father only had 49.999.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Doctors talk. So now I'm here to digest. I have the GI right here to digest what Dr. B just said about the microbiome and the ecosystem. And everybody has every single cell has a different purpose and personality. That sounds interesting. So and then also I got a concept of if we keep our gut microbiome happy, then that will kind of continue to promote the harmony. And so there's no less chance to have inflammation, less war inside our body. So we keep our body healthy and continue to strive for longevity. Am I correct on that matter?
Yes, you are. And
Okay.
because I would argue, and again, we're simplifying complex topics, but I think that there are these general themes that prove to be true when you look out across the medical literature. I would argue that when you create an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, you are nurturing these systems. You are nurturing both the gut microbiome. You may not realize that, for example, an anti-inflammatory diet, which could come in many different varieties, right?
Right.
But those varieties, to me, they're all plant-based.
Yeah.
And so when you consume this plant-based diet that's anti-inflammatory, you are naturally feeding and fueling the gut microbiome and giving them what they need to thrive, to remain strong, resilient, capable of supporting you and your body, doing its job. And simultaneously, they are producing the chemicals that impact the gut barrier, which separates the immune system from the microbes. And they're producing the chemicals which directly influence the immune cells and help to shape the immune system, make it, once again, resilient, but also, to me, more importantly, tactical, precise, targeted, and strong. I don't want an immune system that's constantly active. That is unnecessary, and frankly, you won't feel well if that's the case. I want an immune system that is restrained, but when necessary and appropriate, it will step up and do its job with force. And the gut microbiome allows us to create that.
And I don't, Dr. J, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to interrupt your conversation with Dr. B. I think that was getting to that point that when you mentioned about the mitochondria. So would you please help people like me can further understand what it is and how this play a part of the gut health? And then further on, you mentioned about one thing very interesting is the gut barrier. And I learn from you that gut barrier also a way kind of one of the reason it's broken, and so people have leaky gut or they gut issue. So please help us understand what is a mitochondria and then how that play the role.
Well, the mitochondria is one of this, when we think of this is getting very nerdy college level biology.
Yeah.
But basically we have these, what we call eukaryotic cells. So this is like the classic cell within the body. And it has different, what we call organelles. So like that could be the nucleus, or it could be where the protein is created, which is the endoplasmic reticulum, or like these different elements that basically like allow the cell to function and do its job. And there sits the mitochondria. And the mitochondria is basically the battery. It's the energy source, the power source for these cells. And what we have discovered is that the mitochondria has its own DNA. This is what Dr. J was referring to previously. And it's raised the question, where did the mitochondria come from? Why would it be distinct and different from the other organelles within the cell? And what we believe to be true is that the mitochondria is actually a bacteria that was absorbed into the cell and became a part of the workings. And so it's an indicator of the long-standing connections and relationships that exist, that we, as we sit here today and we take this for granted, we're the product of nature and the brilliance of nature and the resilience and the survival instincts of nature and the ways in which we have improved through millennia. And the mitochondria to me are one example of this. In my book, in chapter 2, I summarize 3 billion years of evolution in a matter of pages. And the fascinating thing from my perspective is that we evolved 2 specific departments within our immune system. So the first is the innate immune system, which each of us is blessed to receive at birth. It comes pre-programmed. And it has been trained through 3 billion years of evolution. There are things that showed up for the first time billions of years ago that are the markers of, a pathogen or the markers of something that we are friendly with, that our immune system has learned to recognize and identify. And we receive this, the brilliance, the wisdom of all of these years of experience is reflected inside of us. To me, it's like fascinating. But there's a missing piece, which is that I, as a human, am big and cumbersome, and I can't change and adapt very quickly or easily. But these microbes do. The microbes have the ability, if you take antibiotics, literally after the first dose, you have already instigated a chain reaction where those microbes are already adapting to the first dose of the antibiotics. This is how we develop drug or antibiotic resistance. And so in order for us to keep up with the speed of these microbes that, that could potentially become infectious, could become a pathogen, for us to keep up with that, we need an immune system that's adaptable as well. Rapidly adaptable. And so that's why we created the adaptive immune system, which is the second wing. So we receive this, pre-installed innate immune system that is the wisdom of billions of years of evolution. And then we simultaneously receive at birth an adaptive immune system, which is basically the catalog of our life experiences that develops over the course of time. And during our lifetime becomes, more and more robust and targeted in its ability to protect our body. So it's just, I think that like the question that you were asking, May, was like, what is the mitochondria and what does it mean? And I think what it means is that we live a life in integration with our environment, with these microbes, and that we are far more the product of our environment than we even realize.
Beautiful.
So when we talk about this, one way I'm thinking is, when we talk about longevity and then talk about all those diseases, and we talk about the importance of the gut health and microbiome, we all can understand that a healthy lifestyle is good for the microbiome. But can you bring us some most critical or essential factors in creating gut health? For example, people now like to say food is medicine, but you also like to promote food as information. So what does it mean for food as information?
Yeah, food is information because ultimately the choices that you make with your diet, you may not realize this. You're just trying to casually enjoy a meal, and I don't blame you because I do the same. I love food. But you may not realize that the choices that you're making, they are going to reverberate through this ecosystem. It's creating an environment in which these microbes live. And ultimately, it will shape them. And they will be different as a result of those choices. So, and that can work to your benefit, and that could protect you from disease. And those are the choices that I really try hard to encourage with my books and with my education, my teachings. But they could simultaneously be choices that, look, we're all human. I like many of the same things too, but the choices that are indulgent, it's short-term, short-term fun, tastes good, whatever it may be, but long-term creates an unhealthy environment within your gut ecosystem, and that leads to the loss of balance and the emergence of the pathogenic microbes disproportionately, and ultimately what we would call dysbiosis, which is a weak, insecure, less functional microbiome. That's not where you want to be. And so these food choices become very important because on a daily basis, we're consuming, on the order of 3 or more pounds of food per day. And they come into contact with these microbes. That is like dramatically shaping the ecosystem. But I also think that it's important, and this is one of the things that I really wanted to make clear in my new book. It's not just the only thing, right? You can't just engineer a good diet and automatically make yourself healthy. We're far more complicated than that. And as human beings, we have much bigger needs than that. And part of that is to be in synchrony with our environment, in synchrony with the rise and the fall of the sun, and to have rhythms to our day. That's part of our need. It's who we are. And another part of our need is connection to other people. I think this is something that was developed when we started as tribal people, because within that context, like there was no such thing as a house. There was no such thing as a bank account. Wealth was reflective of your interconnections with other people, because that's how you survived. And so like longevity in that context, given the harshness of the environment, the threats that existed, the absence of resources, longevity in that environment was to live long enough to have children and pass on your genetic code. People weren't saying like, how do I live to 100? And so we come from that. That's hardwired into us, that we really desperately need connection to other people, and that we are inherently emotional creatures, and that we could be emotionally damaged, emotionally bruised. And so there's also this conversation that I have seen countless times throughout my career as a gastroenterologist that I discussed in chapter 8 of my new book about the impact of trauma, the impact of, stress, and through the brain-gut connection, how that contributes to not just our gut microbiome, but to human health throughout the entire body.
Yeah, loneliness, especially loneliness now is a big topic. People are talking about how they impact our health. compare it to smoking. So what is a basic diet you recommend? I saw that you promote something called F goals. I'm really curious about start with the F.
So F goals is the framework that I created for my first book, Fiber Fueled, that allowed me to remember the specific food groups that I'm targeting.
Mm.
And so each letter of the acronym represents at least something, but in some cases more than one thing. So F stands for fruit and fermented.
Mm.
G stands for greens and whole grains. O stands for omega-3 superseeds. So chia, flax, hemp, basil seeds, walnuts, healthy fats. A stands for aromatics, so garlic, onions, the flavor vegetables. L stands for legumes. And finally S, I got to the end and I was like, I have a lot more that I want to say, so I'm going to do 3 with the letter S. So we have sea vegetables, seaweed, sea vegetables. We have sprouts, which could include sulforaphane, and gosh, I'm blanking on the third one. Do you remember what it is? I'm sorry.
I thought it was
Sulforaphane.
yeah. No.
There's one more that I'm forgetting, but nonetheless, it may come to me. But nonetheless, that's my acronym that allows me to remember, like, these are the main foods that I'm targeting with my diet.
It's a mushroom.
Shrooms. Yes, thank you. Yes. So
Not shrimp, it's shroom.
yeah. So mushrooms, shrooms, meaning the edible, the kind we eat as food. They're not technically plants. They're actually
Right.
fungi.
Yes.
But they are interesting because they have fiber. They have polyphenols. They have many plant-based nutrients. So I have, basically declared them, honorary plants, and I've invited them to this party of F goals.
Well,
So, as a food, can allow me to ask one of the elements under the sea, and I ask, so why you pick sea vegetables? Because this is the first time I heard that a doctor emphasized on the sea vegetables.
Yeah, seaweed, sea vegetables. There's a tradition that exists in some cultures, of course, some East Asian cultures, such as Japan, where this is like very highly integrated into the diet. And as I was contemplating my first book, Fiber Fueled, one of the key messages that I want people to receive in that book, and I continue to say this today because the science hasn't changed. The science, if anything, has become stronger, is that the variety of different plant-based foods defines the resilience of this gut ecosystem. It goes back to Mei. You asked me to take us on a tour into the gut. And I said that, you eat these different foods and some of them like fiber and some of them like protein. And the point is that when you eat a variety of plant-based foods, all the different species that like fiber, like polyphenols, enjoy phytochemicals, they all get fed. That's the beauty of variety. It takes care of these things for us. And as I contemplate the idea of, like, how do we achieve more variety in the diet, one of the opportunities that we have is to introduce these things that clearly have unique forms of fiber, clearly have unique health benefits, and really aren't traditionally consumed in the American diet. And so seaweed, sea vegetables, to me, I see that. Like, I'm not sitting here and telling you that a seaweed is an entire meal. It's not. Nor am I saying that I eat it literally every single day. I don't. But do we have seaweed? Do my children love seaweed? Do we eat it as a snack? Do we get it every once in a while? Absolutely we do. Our gut microbiome, our gut microbes, they've been exposed.
Yeah, so in terms of like mushroom, I usually tell people that I'm a fungi, but I'm not a fungus. Just want to make sure people understand that. And then fermented food, you talk about seaweeds. You know, in Asia, you know, Korea is very well known for seaweeds. Japan has a fermented soybeans, natto, all that. And my most favorite fermented food is actually it's called stinky tofu.
Stinky tofu.
If you haven't tried it, you should.
Yeah.
Stinky tofu. Yeah. One thing I question, I come up, sometimes people tell me that I don't eat fermented food because now the mold is considered an environmental toxin that bring up your inflammation, everything. And people say, I don't want to eat fermented food because I could get mold infection. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think that we need to have, so to me, a ferment, like I see something different there. I don't just see kimchi or sauerkraut. I see an ecosystem. I see transformation. I see life. You know, when I create these ferments at home myself, they come to life. There's bubbles, there's things, and it goes from, you know, if it's sauerkraut, it goes from salty cabbage to an end product of this sour, crunchy, tart, delicious, makes my mouth water sauerkraut. We need those ecosystems to be healthy, right? That's an ecosystem. It needs to be healthy. You would not consume unclean water. You should not consume unclean ferments. But when they are healthy, it's actually quite obvious. They smell nice. They taste nice. They look right. And they're there to be enjoyed. And when I wrote Fiber Fueled, I wholeheartedly believed, based upon what I had seen, but also some intuition, I believed that fermented foods could be a welcome addition to a gut-friendly diet. That's why they're in F goals, right? And I published that book in 2020, and I wrote that book in 2019. And as we sit here today, the evidence has continued to pile up and emerge to support that. And, you know, we have data, for example, from Justin Sonnenberg and Christopher Gardner and Erica Sonnenberg at Stanford University, where using a fermented food intervention, they were able to show something that is quite striking, that you could increase the diversity within your gut microbiome within a matter of 8 weeks. And proving the thesis behind my book, Fiber Fueled. You know, again, these are complex topics, and I'm applying these really basic rules, but here it is once again, that as the microbiome becomes stronger, as diversity increases within the gut ecosystem, which is a measure of health, inflammation levels drop. And so, and we're now seeing this, that fermented foods are consistently associated with an anti-inflammatory effect. So I think it's important for us to see, because I do sometimes believe that within our community, the plant-based world, we can be hypercritical of specific nutrients, and we can overly reduce food to just that nutrient. So in the context of fermented foods, we often will attack the salt content. I literally wrote in my new book the limits of salt content. I don't want people to be consuming excessive salt. But 70% of the salt in our diet comes from ultra-processed food. That's the problem. It's not, so we shouldn't deprive ourselves of the healthy food that happens to contain salt if we can normalize our salt intake. What we should do is we should deprive ourselves of the high salt, but also ultra-processed, additive-laden foods. We should deprive ourselves of that, replace it with plants, and make room for some fermented foods. It doesn't dominate the plate, but it becomes a part of the plate.
So, Dr. B, what I learned from you here is, it actually, it sounds like you are emphasizing on the whole plant-based food, whole plant-based food, and also use the FGOALs that represent the variety of the food categories that we should be mindful to incorporate in our daily eating. And so, and also including the fermented food, because that can diversify our microbiome. So, what is your advice for people who already suffer from years of the chronic GI issue, and can the other health system, the symptom can be actually related to their gut health? If they have experienced that for decades of the leaky gut or this gut issue, is there any hope for them? And how
Oh,
soon they can
there's
recover?
tons of hope. There's tons of hope, which is to me the exciting and beautiful thing about what we have, which is that your redemption story could start today. Right? I lived the majority of my life on a unhealthy, ultra processed, junk food, fast food diet. And I stand before you, you know, mid 40s and in the best shape of my life. So, it's never too late to start improving your health, and the gut microbiome is so forgiving. May, the evidence would dictate that the choices that you make in your diet, they start to impact your microbiome by tomorrow. And that's undeniable.
Wow.
Now, that doesn't mean that you have completely overhauled your microbiome. No, that takes change. That takes time. Change doesn't come that quickly. Imagine that you're rebuilding a forest after a fire, right? When you're rebuilding a forest after the fire, you plant the seeds, you sustain the environment, and you allow those seeds to do what they do, which is eventually they will grow and they will restore the forest. And so health can take time, but the seeds can be planted overnight. And if you continue to plant seeds every day, you will radically transform your health. And when it comes to the gut barrier, which is an important part of the conversation because it protects both the gut microbiome and the immune system. They both are basically tethered to the health of the gut barrier. So we want it to be strong and resilient. And the evidence indicates that every 3 to 5 days, we install a brand new gut barrier.
Wow.
Imagine if I told you every 3 to 5 days you have a new liver. It would be
Amazing.
ridiculous. That would be ridiculous. I don't even know that I would buy that. But what I'm saying to you is that you have inside of you 20 to 25 feet of intestine that is carpeted with these single layer of cells, that the surface area could be the surface area of an apartment. And every 3 to 5 days, you install a brand new carpet across the entire floor of that carpet, of that apartment. And that is an opportunity to create health. Because when you install this brand new gut barrier in 3 to 5 days, if it is stronger than the version from before, if it is more resilient than the version before, your microbes benefit and your gut barrier and your immune system both benefit as well. So to me, there is such opportunity for healing, such forgiveness, but it is the small choices and it is the consistency. These to me are really, really important concepts. Like it's not the one big salad. Forget that. It's the small, consistent choices that you make every day that could really, really change everything for you. So, and the last thing I'll say, May, is that it's not just your diet. There are ways to heal without even lifting a fork. Right? We know that all of these different factors in your life ultimately will impact your microbiome. It is your story and it doesn't lie, right? There's no facade. There's nothing fake. Everything is real. How do you feel? How are you living? How do you spend your time? How about your connections? It all ends up getting reflected into this place, these microbes. And we have opportunities to pull those levers, those other levers that include exercise, that include spending time outdoors. There was one study, I'll share this just briefly, that I discovered in researching my new book. I spent 3 years writing because I wanted to really understand this topic and go deep into the literature. And there was one study that I found that it's just so fun and wonderful, because basically they took a group of older people and they asked them to once a week spend 30 minutes outdoors just contemplating how wonderful the world is. And they called this an awe walk, AWE. So they would take this awe walk, have a sense of awe of the world, the grandeur, have appreciation. And this improved their health dramatically.
Wow.
So there are many ways for us to heal. It's not just food, but it certainly does include food, but there are these other opportunities as well. And I would encourage people who may not feel well to take advantage of these other opportunities that do exist.
Well, there are so many things we can talk about, but since we're toward the end, there's one important thing I want to discuss. I got this from one of your interviews with Chuck Carroll. Now, we talk about GI, we talk about food, but how about exit? We talk about importance of exit. I even remember vividly how you talk about if we saw you at the airport. I don't know whether you remember the conversation, but the exit, we really want to touch that a little bit at least.
I'm sorry, what was the
poo time?
Yeah.
You're talking about the poo time?
We have the output, the exit time.
I think that there's a story there too, Jengyu. There's a story there too. So, if I were a cardiologist, I would listen to your heart, and that would tell me a lot. And as a gastroenterologist, I'm interested in what your poop looks like, because that tells me the story of your gut microbiome. And what we know with clarity is that there's the Bristol stool chart right there. And
Yes!
showing it up.
I mean,
Yeah.
should get this book about the
Yeah.
stool chart.
So basically, whether it's the frequency, whether it's the form, the shape, experience of the person, whether or not they're satisfied after they go, this is all part of their story, and that's a microbiome story. So if you have listened for the last hour and you have become convinced that the microbiome is important, then what I've just said to you is I'm also elevating the value of what you can learn from your bowel movements. And I know that this is a taboo topic and we're not supposed to talk about it, but at the end of the day, don't we all want to be healthy? And here is a place that we can learn something important.
Yeah, I found it very interesting that you put a poo chart in your cookbook.
Yeah. I mean,
It's you know what? I probably was never the right person to be doing a cookbook in the first place. That's the truth.
By the way, you have the excellent cookbook. I love it. And see, I have a lot of sticky notes right here, as when I cook a lot, doing a lot of cooking demo in the community, I reference this book very often and very easy to understand. So I really enjoy that. So I want to kind of tie back, and I know, again, I'm going to echo you, Dr. J. We are toward the end of the conversation, but I do want to relay the message about, beside, we have a lot more, health effect, I should say health pillars that we should consider beside the nutrition, so the mood, your connection, activity, exercise, sleep, our stress level. And I remember when I was at a graduate school and Jen was, we both at a same medical school and I was at a healthcare administration. I hate the presentation. I hate group discussion at the time. I have to say I had a little bit of a language barrier still. So before our group discussion time, I had to go to the restroom and I had a diarrhea really bad every single time. So now I think I built that resilience because again, I have more practice and my skin get thicker. But it's just I kind of remember that how important it is our mood also immediately affect our GI system.
Yeah, that's
Big
actually
time.
we have a totally clear explanation for what's going on there now. So, and it used to be that these things were sort of nebulous and in some cases dismissed because, you would say mind body and people would sort of swat that away and say there's no way that's real. But we now have very, very clear physiology through the brain gut connection that explains what you just described. And I saw that myself 20 years ago in medical school when we would have a test day and the bathroom, like everyone was waiting in line because we were all stressed out. And so, and what's happening, just to run through it real quick, is that the brain releases a hormone called CRH, corticotropin releasing hormone, which is your stress response. And it's meant to basically like help you to survive within the context of some threat. Right? So your body is interpreting that you're under attack or there's a threat. So it activates this response. And CRH will set off a cascade throughout the body that makes you more focused, that raises your blood pressure, that makes your heart pump, that makes you breathe heavier so that you get more oxygen, that releases blood sugar. But the problem is that like you do all those things, you may not need those things, right? You may not need those things. And also there's a sacrifice. And what you've just sacrificed is your gut. And so instantly you can feel it. And this is why many people, they will manifest stress. And it could be butterflies, it could be nausea, it could be worse, it could be cramps, it could be sharp waves of cramps, it could be diarrhea or constipation. So these are all manifestations of the brain gut connection. And all they're doing is exemplifying, showing you the pathways that exist through which stress can ultimately affect your health. So I think that then becomes more clear.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So Dr. J, should we kind of talk about a little bit that Dr. B, we are very excited to have Dr. B come to Rochester in April at our annual conference, and that will be on April 9th.
Nice.
That's the day that you're going to have a presentation to our audience, participant, and also you are going to conduct a
Women's health.
conversation, women's health grand round at a Mayo Clinics on Thursday, actually, on the same day. So we are very excited. Can you share with us what are you going to cover on that day?
So April 9th actually turns out to be my father, who I wrote about in my new book. That was his birthday, April 9th. So it's just kind of interesting sometimes these
This
days that
come
occur.
together.
It's a special important day for me. And I'm excited to come and we're going to talk about longevity. And so, this conversation that we have touched the surface of today, how longevity is, like, what is longevity? How do we define it? How can we achieve it? What are the opportunities? To me, it starts in the gut. And so we will be deep diving into that particular topic during that conversation.
Wow.
Yeah. So since you're coming, but how would people get more information or contact you before they see you in person here in Rochester?
I mean, I think that it would be fun for people to come and see me in Rochester. I always love meeting, people who are like-minded or who want to have conversations about this stuff. You can also come through the traditional in the sense that they're new technologies. Come through my website, theguthealthmd.com, sign up for my email newsletter. You can find me on social media. You can find me on YouTube. I have a new podcast with Chuck which you can find. It's called the Gut Insiders. So search for the Gut Insiders on Spotify or Apple iTunes. And so yeah, so I'm in all these different places, and I create many different things. That's basically what my life is now. I create things that with the intent of trying to help people as much as possible. And those things, many of them are free, or you could borrow my books from the library. Whatever works best for you. But ultimately, like my goal, my dream is to try to impact people's lives in a beneficial way. And so these are the ways in which I do that.
You reach out to a
Absolutely.
lot of young generations, a lot of young generations, which is the information they really needed. I'm also excited that we are going to have a session in the evening on Thursday, the day that you are here. We're going to have fun time with Brenda Davis about the recipe makeover, how we can convert the traditional recipe to a healthier version, but not to lose the taste. I hope it's not a surprise to you.
Yeah,
Well, to be
there's a
honest
lot
with
of
you, anything that I get to do with you and Dr. Davis sounds like fun to me.
And then Chuck is going to host that session, so we're going to have fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I know you have a lot of information on the website. I actually signed up your newsletter too, but nothing beats seeing you in person. So
Yeah.
just don't miss that opportunity.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's summarize a few takeaways from today. Gut health is foundation to longevity, vitality, and chronic disease prevention. And secondly, the microbiome connects our digestion and also our immunity and importantly, information. And food isn't just calories, it's really just like you say, food as information. And finally, it's really small, consistent changes that can lead to the powerful transformation, just like our podcast. Yeah.
And think beyond the nutrition. There are a lot more health modality that we should consider, especially mood, that affect our gut health as well.
So
Yes.
true. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So thanks for joining us on Healing Step to Wellness. I'm Dr. J,
I'm Mei,
guiding you toward whole person health, one step
and one bite at a
at a
time.
time.
Thank you. We'll see you next time. And hope you come back again.